The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
And hello again, wrestling fans. Happy St. Patrick's Day. It is Thursday, March 17th. St. Patrick's Day here, definitely in Canada, U.S., and a lot of other places around the world. I want to thank you for all the Johners listeners joining us on today's broadcast. Also, we're part of the Ontario Indie Podcasting Network throughout Ontario and Canada. And I want to thank you for joining us on YouTube and Facebook and Rumble. If you're watching us visually, Rumble's a new service created by a Canadian, going to be competing with YouTube basically. So it's a slow starter, but we are on there along with Talk is Jericho. They're part of that network as well. So we're going to be part of that upstart. We are also audio versions of our program on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere else you get your podcasts from. Want to encourage you guys to stop by our website, scumbagswrestling.ca, and also our Facebook page, because daily throughout the month of March, we are doing the Ontario Indie March Madness Tournament. We started round 2 earlier today, and we're narrowing down 64 stars of Ontario down to 1 by April 1st, and we'll see who's standing tall at the end of it. We're not normally doing regular news, but unfortunately, Scott Hall passed away this past week, and thoughts for all the fans, family, and friends of Scott at this time. Definitely a huge influence. And I think throughout the history of the show, we've talked about Scott a bunch of times and will be in the future. So we are talking about history of wrestling, March 11th to 17th, but we can't do that until we go over to Niagara Falls and welcome Jonesy. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a beautiful day. It's quite warm outside for this time of year, and the maple syrup is starting to come out of the trees, and I know you had some recently.
Yeah, I've already gone twice to, I'm going to do a cheap plug because they don't pay me for it anyways, but McLaughlin's maple syrup just outside of London in the Kamoka area. Definitely a place to go to. $15 for all you can eat breakfast and fresh maple syrup. So, like I said, great time of the year, February into March, with the weather changing like that. Great for syrup, especially in Canada. And yeah, St. Patrick's Day, great weather out there. Almost 20 degrees, I think, here in London. Not sure what it is over in Niagara.
I think it was 18. It's now 15 degrees, and it's 7:12.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're going to end up getting hit with something else before this is all over and we get to enjoy the rest of the good weather. But let's enjoy it while it lasts. However, like I said before, we're talking history, and
we're not talking about weather.
Nope. We did that. We did weather report. We did some little bit of news, plugged a bunch of things. Now let's dive into what we're here for. Starting with our headlines.
Headlines. 58 years ago, March 11th, 1964, Antonio Noki makes his professional wrestling debut in Honolulu, Hawaii. 29 years ago, on this day, 1993, Adolfo Brasiliano, a.k.a. Dino Bravo, was brutally murdered in his home in Vaillemont, Quebec, Canada. He was 44. And that happened in my last year of high school. On March 10th, 1993, Brasiliano was found shot dead in his home while watching hockey in Vaillemont, Laval, Quebec. He was shot 17 times, 7 in the head and 10 in the torso. Though there were allegations that he had been involved in a cigarette smuggling ring, it was never officially proven. In the days prior to his death, Brasiliano confided to friends that he knew his death was imminent, and his murder has never been officially solved.
Hey, at least he went out watching hockey in his home. But there was actually a episode of Dark Side of the Ring that talked about this and the whole Montreal mafia type deal, and as you mentioned, the whole I guess bootlegging of cigarettes and stuff like that going on in the Montreal area in '93. He got, I guess, too big for the big boss's liking, and thanks for coming out, Dino. Oddly enough, and I wasn't necessarily a big fan of Dino Bravo. I did like his whole feud with Warrior and bringing in Earthquake and stuff like that. But to know he was basically Canada's version of Hulk Hogan for the longest time before it then became Bret Hart. But I would never have guessed it with what I saw of Dino Bravo in the late 80s and into the early 90s, and his bench pressing with Jesse Ventura at the Royal Rumble and stuff like that. So,
and when I watched him as a kid, I didn't know that he had already wrestled there in the past, and his hair was actually black, and he was a baby face for a long while.
Yeah, so, and tag team champion with Dominic DeNucci.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. I think we're going to bring that up also. It happens during this week's title changes. Him and Dominic won the WWF tag team titles. So, yeah, the things you don't realize until you look further back. But, yeah, he was just a cartoon character, basically, with Jimmy Hart or Frenchie Martin.
But, man, I liked his wrestling style, and his side slam I thought was one of the best in the business. Definitely better than mine, which I've never done one. Anyways, 26 years ago, the Steiner brothers made their surprise return 1996 to WCW and lost to the Road Warriors. March 11th, 1996 on Raw, Mark Henry made his WWF television debut in a pre-taped segment, during which he gorilla press slammed Jerry Lawler. 20 years ago, 2002 on Raw, the NWO, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Hulk Hogan defeated Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock in a 3-on-2 handicap match.
Yeah, somebody compared that to recently when this anniversary of it came up, that they would be the equivalent of, say, Cena and Reigns taking on the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega in 2022.
Mm.
I don't know if star power is as big as that match, but I guess it could be the equivalent.
No, I'd say back then the wrestling audience was, I want to say it was larger, but I could be wrong. It's just, seems it was a little larger back then. Anyways, 12 years ago, March 11th, 2010, Ken Shamrock was suspended for 1 year and fined $2,500 by the California State Athletic Commission for testing positive for multiple drugs. The ruling came less than 2 weeks before Shamrock was set to face Bobby Lashley in an MMA boxing event in Pensacola, Florida. Shamrock denied taking steroids, but later, in a 2014 interview, admitted to doing such.
Would never have seen that coming.
Ooh, that jammy. 27 years ago, 1995, in Hawaii, Brian Adams, a.k.a. WWF's Crush, was arrested on drugs and weapon charges after anabolic steroids, unregistered semi-automatic weapons, a stun gun, and marijuana were found in his home in Hawaii. WWF fires him, but hires him back in August of 96.
This was actually quite shocking to me. As a fan of Crush, not necessarily Rainbow Bright Pineapple Head Crush, but definitely was a fan of Brian Adams, and to find out that was going on totally blew my mind.
I liked Kona Crush. Personally, I thought that was his best character, at least most popular.
True.
And, I mean, I know he did it throughout his career, but, man, he had one of the best damn backbreakers out there. He did it with such ease. 18 years ago, 2004, March 13th, WWE held their first Hall of Fame ceremony since 1996 at the Hilton in New York City. The 2004 class included Jesse Ventura, Don Morocco, Tito Santana, superstar Billy Graham, Sergeant Slaughter, Greg Valentine, Bobby Heenan, Harley Race, Pete Rose, and posthumous introductions for Big John Studd and the Junkyard Dog.
Yeah, it's kind of a sad one with Bobby being doing that one. Actually, no. I think he was still healthy at that time. But he definitely was noticing the cancer.
Yeah, his voice was a little different, but he had a little slur, but that was about it.
Yeah, he was still able to talk, unlike how in his later years, totally unrecognizable. But good class there. Definitely looking back at the foundation of WrestleMania.
You know why he died that way? It's because of all those nasty comments he made and lies. See, children, this is what happens when you lie. But it is a real shame that happened to that guy. Same as what happened to Roger Ebert.
Oh, yes.
Awful. Anyways, back to wrestling. 17 years ago, March 14th, 2005, on Raw from Atlanta, the Rockers Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty joined forces for the first time since December 91, defeating La Resistance, Rob Conway and Sylvain Grenier. On the same show, Jake the Snake Roberts returns for the first time since February 97 and is featured on Jericho's highlight reel.
It's good that Marty was able to get over his fear of Shawn and not have to jump through a barbershop window.
I know, God. One of these days, I'm gonna make a little model of that. 14 years ago, March 14th, 2008, Vince McMahon receives a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. 14 years ago, March 14th, 2008, Ring of Honor made its debut in Dover, New Jersey. Between matches, the final scenes of The Wrestler starring Mickey Rourke were being filmed. The scene involved Randy the Ram, played by Rourke, facing his arch rival, the Ayatollah, played by Ernest Miller, at an ROH show. 11 years ago, 2011, on Raw, Vicky Guerrero defeated Trish Stratus to retain her position as general manager of Raw.
Yeah, she made a lot for herself after Eddie's passing, and it was good that the McMahon family took care of her. Nowadays, she's sporadically appearing with AEW and sometimes with Nyla Rose.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of Dark and a little bit of the other one on YouTube, and I see her out there. She actually looks pretty good. She hasn't aged a whole hell of a lot. That's probably just because she's really good with the makeup. 46 years ago, March 15th, 1976, 8-time NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion Danny Hodge retires from wrestling due to an automobile accident. Hodge's car went off an embankment into a river. Even though Hodge had a broken neck, he frees himself, swims, and finds his way back to the road for help. Hodge, if you remember, could still crush an apple with his bare hands up to his death in 2020.
Yeah, and he liked to go to also hardware stores and take apart pliers with ease, which did not please hardware store owners.
No, but I did not know that. Neat.
Yeah, I believe that story that Jim Ross has told a few times on Grill and JR.
17 years ago, March 15th, 2005, at a SmackDown taping in Georgia, Kurt Angle defeated Marty Jannetty by submission. The appearance impressed WWE officials, and Marty was signed to a new contract. Unfortunately, a domestic incident prevented Marty from making appearances, and he was fired.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, how he's unfortunately his worst enemy. Though he is kind of entertaining to follow on social media, especially when he claims at the age of 13 of killing somebody at a bowling alley. And also questioning whether his girlfriend's daughter is old enough to hook up with.
Yikes.
The man has some issues.
Yep, he does. And though I think there should be a Marty part of the Hall of Fame, a wing where the Martys go? Because hey, the Martys, he was a good wrestler. He was entertaining. He just wasn't. He didn't have the superstar power. That's it. But he was a great worker, and hell, I remember seeing him on WCW Saturday Night many times.
That's why they originally put him with Shawn Michaels, was because of his ability to wrestle and get somebody as green as Shawn over. But then Shawn had the personality. And I was just listening also to a What Happened. No, not What Happened. Something to Wrestle. It's a best of. And they talk about the relationship between Sonny and Shawn. But turns out Conrad found out that she wrote like a PWI magazine or something like that as a teenager, wanting to hook up with Marty Jannetty, hoping that he was single, because she saw him on the AWA and was like, I don't see any posters. I don't see this and that. Meanwhile, she got Shawn Michaels instead.
I wouldn't be surprised if she got Marty at some point. I don't know if that makes sense to me that Marty, that she and Marty would hook up. They would have made a great, I think they would have made a great pair in wrestling.
Well, with the train wrecks that both of them are right now, that is probably even more possible today than that.
I thought Sherry's long dead.
No, Sonny.
Oh, Sonny. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Tammy Sitch.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But she has to be out of jail for that to happen.
13 years ago, March 15, 2009, Jeff Hardy loses his house, all of its contents, and his dog after a major fire. Hardy was serving his second suspension with the WWE when the fire occurred. 21 years ago, March 16, 2001, WCW Monday Nitro and WCW Thunder are both canceled by the Turner Networks. Wrestling had been a staple on Turner programming since the 1970s, beginning with Georgia Championship Wrestling, and that's it. I thought there was more. It just sounded like there was going to be more. Yeah. But anyways, wrestling is, of course, back on TBS with AEW.
Yeah,
which is good because I'm telling you, TBS. That's why I like TBS. They had wrestling.
Yeah, and TNT. They have even though they moved the Dynamite show over to TBS, they have still Rampage, I guess, on Fridays, and that cancellation of both Nitro and Thunder definitely put the kibosh to the eventual purchase that was hoped for of Eric Bischoff and his conglomerate that he was putting together. And once they didn't have TV to deal with, that was basically a useless company, and that's why Vince was able to swoop in and get the library and some artifacts for virtually nothing. Meanwhile, you have Tony Khan just recently purchasing Ring of Honor upwards from $30 to $40 million is some of the rumored numbers. And you have WWE who's said got WCW for, I think I heard more like 2.5, definitely under 5 million. And it's just the craziness of the difference in price between the two organizations.
Yeah, again, when that whole thing went down, the idiots with Time Warner and the new people at TBS not wanting wrestling on there, they just thought it was beneath them. And it was just, to me, that's just absolute stupidity. And I bet you if those guys are still alive, someone is fucking beating the shit out of them for fucking everything up. Because imagine if they never sold WCW. They didn't need the money. They could have just hung on to the library and held out for a hell of a lot more than what they got for it. But I know they just wanted to dump it and didn't care about it. But in hindsight,
even if Bischoff had gotten to do it, the wrestling world probably would have been not as low of a cycle that it did have, because you had your diehard Southern WCW diehard wrestling fans and your Northern ones, and you had also everybody who loved wrestling. But those Southern ones weren't willing to go to watch WWE. They stopped watching totally.
Yep.
And that's where the numbers went down. And, I have to admit, the quality that Vince was putting out went down because there was no fueling of the fire to keep it going. He was then starting to put on a show. And it's weird that at that time, WCW was considered a TV company putting on a show, and Vince was a wrestling company putting on shows. Now, it's Vince is a TV company because of all the billions he's getting from NBC and Fox, and AEW is the wrestling show.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, because WWE definitely their presentation is more for TV than it is for the wrestling itself. 8 years ago, March 16, 2014, CM Punk makes his final public appearance since his abrupt, one of those words that my mouth just doesn't want to do. He walked out, damn it, from WWE. He made an appearance on The Talking Dead, the post-show for the hit AMC television series, The Walking Dead. And can you believe it's been 22 years? March 17, 2000, that Beyond the Mat, a pro wrestling documentary directed by Barry Blunstein, had its nationwide release in theaters. Of course, this documentary is one of the best and well-known of all the wrestling documentaries. It followed the lives of 3 wrestlers outside of the ring, featuring Mick Foley, Terry Funk, and Jake the Snake Roberts. It made just it was just made on a $500,000 budget and intended for a limited release. A fan campaign for a full national rollout meant the film turned a profit with over $2 million in the box office. And I'm sure they made a hell of a lot more of that on the DVDs.
Oh, exactly. I know I had it in VHS and possibly DVD. And I know my wife, who's not a wrestling fan, we got her to watch that. And she became a fan of, say, Mick Foley and stuff like that, and Jake, because of that and their behind-the-scenes stuff. She doesn't necessarily care to see their in-ring work, but the people that they are, she did like. And I even got her to go see Mick Foley live in Brantford, Ontario.
And how'd she like that?
She enjoyed that because it was storytelling and not the actual show.
Mick's just a lovable guy.
Exactly. So, yeah, that was basically my wife's gateway.
In fact, there should be a big push, if there isn't already out there. Tim Allen is set to do a new Santa Claus movie, and maybe Mick needs to get a special guest appearance in there. Anyway.
Could be.
Big events. 15 years ago, March 11th, 2007, TNA presented Destination X. 22 years ago, on March 12th, 2000, ECW presenting Living Dangerously, which featured a tournament for the vacated TV title. Dusty Rhodes defeated Steve Corino in a bull rope match. Mike Awesome defeated Kid Cash to retain the ECW World Heavyweight Championship. New Jack and Vic Grimes fought to a no contest. The match ended when New Jack and Grimes fell from a structure 25 feet high, missing the pre-set-up tables, and landed on the concrete floor. Grimes suffered a nerve damage, while New Jack suffered permanent blindness in his right eye, and the incident is known in wrestling lore as the Danbury Fall.
Insane.
March 12th, 2000, Impact players Lance Storm and Justin Credible defeated Raven and Mike Awesome and Tommy Dreamer and Masato Tanaka in a 3-way dance to win the ECW World Tag Team Championship. And also on that same pay-per-view, or whatever the hell it was, Super Crazy defeated Rhino in a tournament final to win the vacated ECW World TV belt. 16 years ago, March 12th, 2006, TNA presented another Destination X. Scott Steiner would make his TNA debut on this one. Yeah.
Oh, actually, it's one of the other ones that was a bad one.
Oh, you can make turd noises. I don't care. Make them anytime you want. 6 years ago, March 12th, 2016, WWE presented Roadblock from the Ricoh Coliseum in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. This was a special that aired on WWE Network. You ever been to the Ricoh Coliseum?
No, that's one that I have not gone to, not even for a Marley's game.
I believe that's the old. Is that the old automotive building at the C&E, or it's one of those buildings?
It's one of the buildings at the C&E, yes.
All right, 17 years ago, March 13th, 2005, TNA presented another Destination X. And 11 years ago, 2011, on the same day, TNA presented Victory Road from the Impact Zone. The show is best remembered for Sting defeating a drug-induced Jeff Hardy. This is one of my favorite matchups. This was a hot topic for a long time, as the question was, why would anyone let a drugged-up performer be allowed to even go out there, let alone try to perform? The event won Wrestling Observer's Newsletter's Worst Major Show Award for that year, and the main event, Sting versus Jeff Hardy, would win the publication's Worst Worked Match Award. And now Jeff Hardy, anyone, when it comes to Jeff Hardy and bitching and moaning at what WWE did, I'm sorry, but Jeff Hardy, he had how many chances over the years? They kept giving him chances. Yes, they did it. They made the wrong call, but the amount of money and time that WWE poured into him during these times and the money that they lost because of him being the way that he is, like, you got to give WWE some slack on that. But of course, people don't want to do that. They just want to, leave Jeff Hardy alone. No, Jeff Hardy is a fucking douchebag. He's a great wrestler, but he's a douchebag.
Yeah, and then magically, even though he was still under contract, and this is where it's kind of questionable, and WWE could eventually sue, but I don't think they're going to bother because it is Jeff Hardy and the wrong call was made. But Jeff Hardy announced before he was even out of his WWE contract officially, his 90 days, that he was going to AEW. And sure enough, the day his contract was officially expired after his release, he's in AEW rescuing his brother, who's getting beat down by people in the ring, but he took time to have his music play and dance his way down to the ring. Mm-hmm. And he's also now teaming up with Sting and Darby Allin. So good luck, Stinger.
See, those things, to me, the way that they play out, they've kind of done that stuff before, but it never makes any sense. Okay, you're already there. Why weren't you out there a little sooner? And obviously, he had time to go, hey, music guy, here's my tape. Make sure you play it. I'm going to dance. And and the whole quick turnaround of Jeff Hardy's group there, whatever the hell, the GHWJ or whatever the hell they were called, turning on him. It was just, I like the wrestling. I love Dark and all that. I mean, my God, there hasn't been a time yet that I go on YouTube and I go click on it. I'm watching another Dark or another, like, it's always new matches. God bless them for that. Because I don't care about the storylines and all that crap. I just want to watch the wrestling.
True. And I don't know if Tony Khan, since he's doing all of the booking himself, has a full grasp on logical booking as opposed to I'm a fan, Mark booking type deal. But it is what it is.
35 years ago, March 14th, 1987, NBC aired the 10th edition of WWF Saturday Night's Main Event from Detroit, Michigan. This event featured a Rowdy Piper tribute video for his forthcoming retirement at WrestleMania 3. It was set to Frank Sinatra's My Way, and it was forthcoming, not his fourth coming retirement. I don't think he had that many retirements, but
no, it's not Terry Funk or Mick Foley or even Tom Brady.
Oh God, Tom Brady, that's awesome. Randy Savage defeated George Steele by countout to retain the WWF IC belt. Hercules Hernandez last eliminated Billy Jack Haynes to win a 20-man battle royal. King Kong Bundy defeated Jake the Snake Roberts by DQ. The Hart Foundation defeated Tito Santana and Dan Spivey to retain the WWF Tag Team Championship. And Ricky Steamboat defeated the Iron Sheik. 23 years ago, March 14th, 1999, WCW presented Uncensored, 1999. And 18 years ago, March 14th, 2004, WWE presented WrestleMania 20, where it all begins again.
Yeah, I'm hoping to be able to do a list like we did with the Royal Rumble and maybe do a special with the first 10 WrestleManias so we can break them down a little bit better and give more substance to them and honor to the WrestleMania legacy. And then we have Uncensored, which was not uncensored. I think we're going to talk about that next week when we talk about Uncensored 95, their very first one, and the craziness that went on with that, including Dustin Rhodes and Blacktop Bully getting fired for a match that went too far. And of course, there's the big tower cage with the Mega Powers and the coalition to destroy Hulkamania. So we'll dive.
That was one of definitely in my top 10 of worst executed matches. And you think the time and the money it took for them to build that cage, and then to have 2 rings set up, the extra money they spent, and to have. Like, you could tell Tony Schiavone had no clue what the fucking rules were. Like, nobody knew exactly what the game with this was.
So that'll be a preview to in next week's show when we talk about it. Yeah, a little bit deeper dive and the confusion of what Uncensored was supposed to be and what it turned out to be.
And it is a joy to watch, mind you. Not just because Zeus is there. Title changes 29 years ago, March 11th, 1993, in London, England. Sting defeated Big Man Vader to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. 39 years ago, March 12th, 1983, Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood defeated Sergeant Slaughter and Don Carnoodle in a steel cage match to win the NWA World Tag Team Championship.
Always a lovely name to say. Don Carnoodle.
I know. I was thinking that. Carnoodle. Instead of Kennedy. Carnoodle. 29 years ago, March 12th, 1993, Jimmy Superfly Snuka defeated Glenn Osborne in a tournament final to win the CW television belt. March 12th, 2000, March 12th, the year 2000, Impact players Lance Storm and Justin Credible defeated Raven and Mike Awesome and Tommy Dreamer and Masato Tanaka in a 3-way dance to win the ECW World Tag Team Championship. And also on that same card, Super Crazy defeated Rhino in a tournament final to win the vacated ECW World Television Championship. 20 years ago, on March 12th, 2002, at a SmackDown taping, Maven defeated Al Snow to win the WWF Hardcore Championship. And 19 years ago, at a NWA TNA weekly pay-per-view taping in Nashville, Tennessee, Leilani Kai defeated Madison in a dark match to win the NWA World's Women's Championship back in 2003. Santa?
Yes.
18 years ago, March 12th, 2004, in Tokyo, Japan, Kensuke Sasaki defeated Hiroshi Tenzan to win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. March 12th, 2004, Bryan Danielson and Curryman defeated Geto and Jado to win the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. Also,
some people might not realize that good old Curryman is actually Christopher Daniels.
Oh, nice. And speaking of Christopher Daniels, on that same day, 2006, though, he defeated Samoa Joe and AJ Styles in an Ultimate X match to win the TNA X Division Championship. 12 years ago, on March 12th, 2010, Chessman defeated Hernandez and Marco Carleone in a 3-way dance to win the AAA Ray to Ray's King of Kings tournament. Also on the 12th, 2010, Electroshock defeated El Massis and Mr. Anderson.
Electroshock definitely had quite the costume to him. Whole bodysuit of basically a skinned person.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yikes. In a
So
triple threat match to win the AAA World Heavyweight Championship. Oh my God, can you imagine that same type of bodysuit, but put that on El Gigante?
Well,
See, that's why they added the fur.
Yeah, it's almost the same except for the fur.
22 years ago, March 13th, 2000, on Raw's War, Dean Malenko defeated S.A. Rios to win the WWF Light Heavyweight Championship, holding it 8 days short of a year. March 13th, 2000, earlier in the day, Pete Gas defeated Crash Holly at a Newark airport to win the WWF Hardcore Championship. But during Raw, Crash would win it back from Mr. Gas.
That was when the fun was happening with Crash being the hardcore champion. And they kind of trying to do that with the 24/7 title, but I'm not feeling it the same as when Crash did it. And we were at the airports or different amusement playlands and stuff like that.
Yeah, that one was great. Jerry Lawler's commentating was fantastic on the one where they were in the playland. 21 years ago, March 13th, 2001, at a Sunday Night Heat taping in California, Crash Holly defeated Dean Malenko to win the WWF Light Heavyweight Championship. March 13th, 2005, Christopher Daniels defeated AJ Styles, Alex Skipper, and Ron Killings in an Ultimate X challenge to win the TNA X Division Championship. Also on the 13th, 2011, Mexican America Rosita and Sarata defeated Angelina Love and Winter to win the TNA Knockouts Tag Team Championship.
Yeah, people would recognize Rosita as actually Selena Vega, or Queen Zelina right now in WWE, one half of the current WWE Women's Tag Team Champions.
Oh, nice. 44 years ago, March 14th, 1978, in Philly, Dino Bravo and Dominic Nanucci defeated Mr. Fuji and Professor Tanaka to win the WWF Tag Team Championship. 35 years ago, March 14th, 1987, in Atlanta, Georgia, Ivan Koloff and Dick Murdoch defeated Ron Garvin and Barry Windham to win the NWA United States Tag Team Championship.
Yeah, it just seems like a very oddly mixed Frankentag team there with Murdoch and Koloff.
Murdoch and Koloff. March 14th, 1999, Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko defeated Kurt Hennig and Barry Windham in a lumberjack match to win the WCW World Tag Team Championship. And on that same show, Booker T defeated Scott Steiner to win the WCW World TV belt. And that same show, in 99, Ric Flair defeated Hollywood Hogan in a first blood steel cage match to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Flair did in fact bleed first, yet the referee, Charles Robinson, never stopped the match. Flair won when Hogan's shoulders were down, while Flair had the figure 4 leg lock applied. The win also gave Flair complete control of WCW. This was yet another misstep in the storyline. Why have a first blood match if you can still win by pinning someone? But
and be bleeding at the same time. And be bleeding at the same time.
Yeah.
And of course, this all happened on Uncensored 99.
Yeah.
How is this making sense? I don't know.
It's WCW. 22 years ago, March 14th, 2000, in Yokohama, Japan, Naoya Ogawa defeated Dan Severn, ending Severn's 1,479-day reign to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. 12 years ago, on March 14th, 2010, Adam Pearce defeated Blue Demon Jr. and Phil Shatter in a three-way bout to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship.
And now he's running Raw and SmackDown.
And March 14th, 2011, King Sheamus defeated Daniel Bryan in a career versus title match to win the WWE United States Championship. All right. Wow. We're not quite halfway through, and we're at 41 minutes. So we're still going to go through everything, but we might skip a few paragraphs here and there. We're going to go to deaths now. 15 years ago, 2007, wrestling legend Arnold Scotland passes away. He was 82, and that's for March 13th. The Super Spotlight is for Test. It was 13 years ago in 2009 on March 13th that Andrew Robert Patrick Martin, best known to wrestling fans as Test, was found dead in his home in Tampa, Florida. He was just 33. He did train with Bret Hart and fellow Canadian wrestler Leo Burke, and he debuted in 97 on the Canadian independent circuit and wrestled as Martin Kane and TJ Thunder.
Yeah, so as you said, he was from Whitby, Ontario, died or debuted in October of 97, trained by Bret, Leo Burke, and Dory Funk Jr. He worked for WWF, WWE, the ECW version of or WWE's ECW show, and he briefly was in TNA. He lucky guy, overachiever as far as I'm concerned. Being able to date Stacy Keibler and Kelly Kelly. Kelly Kelly was his last girlfriend, and basically she still, I think, today is a little devastated by the passing of Andrew, but has moved on, mind you, with another relationship, and I think even got married. But it took a toll on her, that loss. So understandable in that regards. People will also remember him as about to marry Stephanie McMahon. He feuded with Shane and the Mean Street Posse in a lover or leaver thing at SummerSlam, but he won that only to lose her to Triple H when Stephanie got drugged up by Mae Young and Moolah, and he got married in the drive-through white wedding chapel in Las Vegas. So Test kind of went downhill from there. Was a member of the corporation and the Un-Americans, but just basically floated, unfortunately, the rest of the time. He appeared in movies like Grindhouse, a voice for one of the Kim Possible movies, and an episode of 18 Wheels of Justice. He made it as high as number 37 in the PWI 500 in 2001. As far as titles goes, he had two-time hardcore champion, one-time European champion, one-time Intercontinental champion, and a WWF and WCW tag team title reign with Booker T. So that is, in a nutshell, Andrew Test Martin, a Canadian who left us way too soon.
Yes, and another little note, it was later determined that Martin had suffered from chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Oh, that's a hard one. But it's the same form of brain damage that Chris Benoit suffered prior to his death a few months earlier.
Yeah.
Moving on to birthdays. And yeah, it does suck that he did go, because he was, I didn't mind him. He was just a little below Kevin Nash in my eyes.
I have a t-shirt of his.
In Kevin Nash in the WWF days. I'm not counting the other stuff. Anyway, March 11th, Pitbull. Number 1, Gary Wolf, is 55. And March 12th would have been the 98th birthday of Joni Mae Young. And we all love Mae Young. And too bad it wasn't her real breasts that she showed. Anyways, March 12th, Hiedo Tommy Kenta turns 41. On March 3rd, Matt Jackson turns 37. The 14th of March, Santino Marella turns 48. Wrath Brian Clark, or Adam Bomb, whatever you want to call him, he turns 58. March 15th, the Iron Sheik, fuck yeah, baby, turns 80.
We're going to talk about him in just a couple of minutes.
All right. Jordan Devlin turns 32. Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF turns 26. Henry O. Godwin turns 58. Steve Armstrong is 57. Samoa Joe, and that was, Henry and Steve are on March 16th. And the 17th of March is Samoa Joe turning 43, and Test would have turned 47.
And that takes us to our other spotlight on the Iron Sheik.
You can do this one too if you want.
Yeah, so we can get through it quick. Yeah. Iron Sheik, born March 14th. Happy birthday, Sheiky. He's from Tehran, Iran. Trained by Vern Gagne and Billy Robinson. Debuted in 1973. Retired in 2007. Has a huge presence still on social media thanks to some people that help basically manage him. Had a wonderful documentary on that's available on Amazon Prime. My wife, another one that was able to watch that one and sit through it. Loves Iron Sheik for his interesting comments and always telling Hulk Hogan to go fuck himself. He was a gold medal winner in Greco-Roman wrestling in 1971. He also went by the name of Ali Basiri, Colonel Mustafa, and the great Hossein Arab. In his documentary, it's talked about how his daughter was murdered, and that definitely took a toll on him, and rightfully so. He appeared in the Tale of Three Muhammads, Operation Belvis Bash, Kenny versus Spenny, Robot Chicken, and multiple appearances on the Howard Stern Show. He's a former soldier in the Imperial Iranian Army. Married Cheryl Peterson on March 21st, 1976. So they're coming up to their 46th anniversary later on this month. But surprisingly enough, Mean Gene Okerlund was his best man.
Nice.
I've discovered that and was like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. And of course, some of his awards and accolades includes the George Tragos Luthez Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2016, NWA Hall of Fame 2008, and WWE Hall of Fame in 2005, one-time WWE World Heavyweight Champion, one-time World Tag Team Champion, and 17 more championships from around the world. I guess one of the biggest things with Sheiky also is the fact that there's rumor that Vern Gagne did not want him dropping the title to Hogan in that Madison Square Garden fight in January of 84 and wanted him to actually break Hogan's leg and bring the belt to the AWA. He was going to get paid a lot of money, but thankfully, as much as he may hate Hulk Hogan and want him to go fuck himself, he had integrity and dropped the title as the transitional champion that he was, taking it from Backlund and dropping it to Hogan. So, he might be crazy. He might be an amazing guy at the same time. He's quite the character. So, happy birthday, Sheiky. 80 years old. And I believe he's still currently the oldest living former WWE champion in history.
Nice. They need to make a statue for him. The Sheiky, if you haven't watched that documentary, it actually will change how you look at the Sheik. Actually really amazing guy. Moving on to the big events. 25 years ago, March 15th, 97, ECW presented Hostile City Showdown from the ECW Arena in Philly. 13 years ago, March 15th, 2009, TNA presented Destination X, and the show did not get good reviews. Some I'm not going to skip, but I'm just not going to give the full details. 24 years ago, on the 15th of March, WCW presented Uncensored 98, which I think was much better than 99. And again, 25 years ago, on March 16th, WCW presented another Uncensored 97. Dean Malenko defeated Eddie Guerrero to win the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship. And Ultimo Dragon defeated Psychosis. Buff Bagwell defeated Scotty Riggs in a strap match. We had Harlem Heat defeating the Public Enemy in a Texas Tornado match. And then the rest is just shit because we had Team Now, Kevin Nash, and all. And you know what? I'm just going to skip that. NWO against Team Piper. And blech. 20 years ago, March 17th, 2002, WWF presented WrestleMania 18. The one and only from the Sky Dome in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, which is kind of funny because there was one before that, so the one and only kind of was funny. Anyways, 68,237 were in attendance, and me and Shawn were two of those. This remains the last WrestleMania to take place outside the United States. It was also the last to bear the WWF name. 2 months after the event, a court order forced the name change from WWF to WWE, and it featured Icon versus Icon as The Rock faced Hulk Hogan and the 10th victory at a WrestleMania for The Undertaker when he beat Ric Flair. And beforehand, the streak had not been acknowledged.
Yeah, that was interesting. After he beat Ric Flair and was bloody, he's on the ring apron, and all of a sudden he just started putting up all the fingers, and that was the first time that they acknowledged that was 10 in a row for him taking out Flair, and Arn Anderson was involved in that. I'm a little pixel in history, 18 rows off the floor facing the hard camera, and I guarantee you cannot find myself. I know the area I was in, but there's no distinct sign that I can say, hey, look for that sign, and there I am. But they should have probably put, because of the way the fans reacted, Hogan versus Rock should have closed up the show, because the fans stole the show on that one with the emotion, and unfortunately the women and also Jericho and Triple H had nothing to come back from.
Yeah. And hopefully there will be another event at Sky Dome eventually, because they are going to be dumping a lot of money into the old Sky Dome, now called Rogers Center, because they are not tearing it down. They are actually just going to refurbish it.
Nice.
Title changes. 42 years ago, March 15th, 1980, in Kawasaki, Japan, Monster Rippa, which is Bertha Faye in the WWF, defeated Jackie Sato to win the WWA World Singles Championship. March 15th, 97, the Dudley Boys defeated the Eliminators to win the ECW Tag Belts. 19 years ago, March 15th, 2003, in Cambridge, Massachusetts, the Amazing Red and AJ Styles defeated Christopher Daniels and Donovan Morgan to win the ROH Tag Team Belts. Also on the 15th, 2009, AJ Styles defeated Booker T to become the new TNA Legends Champion and first Grand Slam Champion in TNA history. And on that same show, Suicide defeated Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, Consequences Creed, and Jay Lethal in an Ultimate X match to become the new TNA X Division champion. 28 years ago, March 16th, 94, in Tokyo, there's another burp. Hiroshi Haas defeated Rick Rude to win the WCW International World Heavyweight Championship. 8 days later, Rude would regain the title. Man, that pizza is coming up on me. Better hurry up and get this done. March 16th, 97, Dean Malenko defeated Eddie Guerrero to win the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship. 24 years ago, also on the 16th, 98, at a Raw's War, Triple H defeated Owen Hart via referee stoppage to win the WWF European Championship. 14 years ago, on the 16th, 2008, Rey de Reyes in Mexico, Cybernetico defeated El Macias to win the AAA Heavyweight Championship. On the same show, El Zorro defeated Abasomo Negro Jr., Mr. Nebula, that's probably better, Nebula, and Alan Stone in an elimination match to win the 2008 Rey de Reyes tournament. 41 years ago, March 17th, 1981, in Allentown, Pennsylvania, the Moondogs defeated Tony Gurria and Rick Martel to win the WWF Tag Team belts. And Moondog King would be replaced by a Moondog Spot about 2 months later, when legal issues prevented King from re-entering American soil from Canada.
Yeah, Rick Martel's one of those
Moondog.
guys that, like Dino Bravo, you didn't realize was there before and held titles. I thought Rick Martel got there as a Can-Am connection and the Strike Force and
Yep.
the model.
29 years ago, March 17th, 1993, in Dublin, Ireland, Big Van Vader defeated Sting to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship just 6 days after losing the title to Sting in London. 25 years ago, March 17th, 97, on Raw's War, Sid defeated Brett in a steel cage match to retain the WWF Championship. The bout just 6 days before WrestleMania 13 set up Sid versus The Undertaker for the title. Had Brett won, he would have defended the WWF Championship in a submission match with Stone Cold Steve Austin.
That's a match that didn't need the title.
No. 21 years ago, March 17, 2001, Scott Norton defeated Kensuke Sasaki to win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. 20 years ago, March 17, 2002, Al Canuck defeated Paurita Morgan, Cybernetico, and Octagon in an elimination match to win the Ray to Rays tournament. Ole! 13 years ago, March 17, 2009, on a SmackDown taping in Corpus Christi, Texas, MVP defeated Shelton Benjamin to win the WWE United States Championship. 9 years ago, also on the 17th, 2013, in Mexico, El Masis defeated La Parca and Canuck in an elimination match to win the Triple Ray to Rays tournament. On the same show, Fabi Apache defeated Lufisto, Marie Apache, and Tara Valkyrie in an elimination match to win the vacated Triple A Rene du Rene Championship. All right, and the last thing we have to do before we get out of here, and we don't have a lot of time to do it, to remain at an hour. So if you want to leave now, you can, and this is the last thing. So we'll do this. It is the Raw and Nitro going head-to-head. WCW Monday Nitro was held in the First Star Center in Cincinnati, Ohio on March 15th, 1999. Singles match, we had Ming defeating Jerry Lynn in about 4 minutes. Rick Steiner defeated Chris Adams in a little over 3. WCW World Cruiserweight title match, Rey Mysterio Jr. defeated Kidman in a almost 10-minute match, and I'm sure that was good. WCW World Tag Team title match, Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko defeated Hugh Morris and the Barbarian with Jimmy Hart, and that one was about 9 minutes. Back to single matches, Stevie Ray defeated Horace in about 4 minutes, and Disco Inferno defeated Conan at almost 10 minutes. God, a lot of decent show as far as time matches. And WCW World Television title, Booker T defeated Chris Jericho by DQ in 13 minutes. And the tag team match, Hollywood Hogan and Kevin Nash defeated Goldberg and Ric Flair in 9 minutes and a half. Overall, a pretty good show, big names. The match durations were really decent for television taping. Let's see what was over on Raw.
Yeah, over on Raw, March 15th, 1999, it took place at the San Jose Arena in San Jose, California. Road Dogg defeated Val Venus to win the WWF Intercontinental Championship in 3 minutes.
Yikes.
Shane McMahon defeated Gerald Briscoe and Pat Patterson in a 2-on-1 handicap match in 2.5 minutes. Owen Hart and Jeff Jarrett, the tag team champions with Deborah in their corner, defeated the Public Enemy to retain their tag team titles in just under 2 minutes. Really short matches going on, and we're setting up for WrestleMania, I believe, at this point. But wow. Big Boss Man and Midian ended in a no contest in a steel cage match. Those are two guys I do not want to see in a steel cage. Billy Gunn defeated Hardcore Holly to win the WWF Hardcore Championship in 7 minutes. And your main event, Steve Austin and Mankind versus The Rock and Paul White, ended in a no contest in 11 minutes and 46 seconds. So, yeah, this was setting up towards WrestleMania, I want to say 15, 99, so WrestleMania 15. And yeah, just probably a show full more of shenanigans. I'm trying to think with how short things were, if they were at 2 hours, but they probably were at a 2 hour mark at this point. So there was a lot of probably backstage segments and in-ring stuff compared to what WCW presented. So
yeah, I didn't have time on the Big Boss Man versus Media, and I don't know how long that match went. I think all in all, a little less wrestling than the other show, but you're getting some big names, and hell, you got a steel cage match. No matter who's in it, seeing a steel cage. I don't think I've been to a show that's had a steel cage match. You have, but I can't recall off the top of my head. No, in WWF, in independence, yes, but not WWF. Right, that is it for this week in wrestling history, which, of course, is compiled from the vast land of Google, Wikipedia, CageSideSeats.com, and most importantly, from fans and journalists that had front row seats to history. And a big thank you, as always, to our sponsor, Coolbet, Coolbet.com, and sportsbook betting and casino games. Look them up, stay cool, and bet responsibly. And of course, as always, thanks to all of our Johners listeners and everyone else there that does occasionally listen to us.
Yes, and wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. St. Patrick's Day. I don't know what I was thinking there, just trying to get through this. But yeah, drink responsibly and enjoy your time. And thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week with more history. And be sure, as I said, to stop by our Facebook page. Vote daily on the Ontario Indie March Madness Tournament. A lot of great talent here in Ontario to be considered and maybe even discover for the first time. So until next time, have a great night.